Before the industrial age, most people did not know what time it was, not because they were ignorant, because it did not matter. Time was measured in seasons, in harvests, in the movement of the sun. A farmer did not start work at 8. He started when the light came, he stopped when it faded. His rhythm was biological, ancient, his own. Then something changed. In 1784, a Scottish engineer named James Watt did not just build a better steam engine. He built a machine that could not wait, a furnace that needed feeding, a piston that demanded consistency. For the first time in history, human labor had to synchronize with a machine, not with nature, not with the body, with a clock. The factory whistle was not just a sound, it was a new philosophy. Your time is no longer yours, it belongs to the output. Workers who had spent centuries setting their own pace suddenly had to arrive at a specific minute, leave at a specific minute, eat at a specific minute. The clock did not just measure time, it owned it. This created something new, a unit of value that had never existed before, the billable hour. Before factories, you were paid for what you produced. A cobbler sold shoes, a farmer sold grain, a blacksmith sold horseshoes. The product had value, the time was invisible. After factories, the time itself became the product. 8 hours, 40 hours, 160 hours a month. Human presence became the commodity. For a while, this made sense. Factories needed bodies at machines. Bodies at machines produced output. Output produced wealth. The equation was clean, but the industrial clock outlived the industrial age. The factories automated. The machines grew smarter, and yet the hour remained. The knowledge worker sat at a desk. Not because the desk required presence, but because the clock demanded it. The measure of a day became hours logged, not problems solved, not value created, not ideas generated. Hours present, accounted for. There is a word for this in economics. Presenteeism, showing up without producing, being there without being useful. Studies suggest it costs more than absenteeism, and yet entire industries are built around it because the clock is familiar, and familiarity is comfortable, even when it is wrong. The deeper problem is this: when time becomes money, everything that is not money becomes a waste of time. Rest becomes laziness, reflection becomes procrastination, play becomes irresponsibility. The activities that historically produce the greatest long-term value, thinking, creating, imagining, building, resist the clock entirely. You cannot schedule insight. You cannot bill for the moment an idea arrives. Consider how the greatest civilizational advances were made. Newton did not discover gravity on a deadline. Darwin spent years observing without producing. Einstein described his best ideas as arriving during long walks. None of these outputs could have been measured in hours. All of them changed the world. The industrial clock created immense wealth. This is not a criticism. It is an observation. Coordination requires measurement, and the clock was a remarkable coordination tool. But every tool shapes the hand that holds it, and a civilization that measures everything in hours begins to believe that hours are what matter. This is where the question becomes interesting, because for the first time in history, the tools exist to decouple survival from presence, not because of ideology, because of mathematics. A piece of software runs whether its creator is awake or asleep. A network validates transactions without asking who is watching. Value can now be stored in a form that does not depreciate with each passing hour. Bitcoin is one expression of this shift, not because it makes people rich, but because of what it represents structurally. A system that rewards proof of work, not proof of presence, that stores value across time rather than eroding it, that operates on mathematical certainty rather than institutional permission. In a world built around the clock, Bitcoin does not tell time, it ignores it. The civilizations that will define the next century may not be the ones that optimize hours. They may be the ones that learn to think beyond them, to measure output instead of presence, to reward creation instead of attendance, to build systems that work while their builders rest. The factory whistle is still ringing. Most people still answer it, not because they have to, but because no one told them they had a choice. The clock changed everything once. Understanding it may be the first step to changing it again.